Hello everyone, we're here in Toronto, Ontario at INcubes. INcubes is an entrepreneur accelerator with a focus on new and disruptive concepts in the technology space. I'm your host, Danielle Fernandes. Today we're going to be speaking with Nick Corneil. Nick is the founder and CEO of an app in the fitness space called Trainer Plus. Trainer Plus makes the lives of personal trainers easier. Thanks for being here, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
So can you tell me a little bit about Trainer Plus, elaborate more on that statement, and a little about yourself?
Sure. Sure. So Trainer Plus is it's an app for personal trainers. It makes it really easy for them to create workout programs and then push them through to their clients, share them with their clients on a mobile device, and have their clients track their workouts whether they're with or away from their trainer. So our main goal is to make personal trainers more accessible and more affordable to the general population. So that's Trainer Plus. My background comes from basically I grew up in this industry. So my mom ran fitness centers when I was a kid. So I was kind of babysat on the side of aquafit classes and stuff like that. That kind of led to a career in sports. And I played and coached professionally for a few years when I was done university, and then jumped into the fitness world. Worked as a trainer. Also worked as a gym manager, and eventually became an operations manager for a national chain. So built sales systems and trained trainers on how to manage their business. Doing that. So I sort of experienced the fitness industry from kind of every level, and that was the main reason why I started Trainer Plus, was because I saw this problem of these trainers who are really capable and needed for people's fitness, but there was a problem of them not being sort of accessible and affordable enough, and I think technology can kind of fill that gap.
So we're in March right now, and obviously a lot of people's New Year's resolution is to become fitter, work out, get a gym membership. Mm-hmm. What is the challenge there? I mean, everyone says they're going to do it and then they don't do it.
Yeah, there's obviously lots of challenges in that realm, but I think the biggest one really is people finding something they're actually going to consistently do. And people have these ideas that they've heard of some program, and it worked for a friend, but not, so it should work for them. But everyone's different, and what everyone likes is very different. So it's really a matter of finding not just something that's going to work, but it's more important to find something you're actually going to like and enjoy. So you're going to do it on a regular basis, so that you actually get to the point of getting results. And that's really the key. The key to the whole psychology of making change in your life, turning things from habit, into routine, into lifestyle. Is just doing them consistently enough to get there. And unless you're doing something you like, you're never going to get into that routine and lifestyle with fitness. So it's really about finding something, and starting there. And then once you actually start to see a result, then the psychology builds on itself from there.
That makes sense. That's very true. You have to like it or enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the common goals? I mean, is it to lose weight? Is it to tone up? Is it to feel better overall?
You can really get a range of goals. I've done hundreds of fitness assessments over the years, and you get a range of goals depending on it. One of the biggest one that I always hear, obviously, is kind of lose weight, tone up, some combination of those two things. Because essentially toning up is very similar to losing weight. It's about losing fat weight basically and looking better in that sense. More and more these days, people are becoming more and more aware of all of the health benefits as fitness as the number one preventative health care. So you find more and more people are now looking at it as that sort of ongoing maintenance as well, the health side of things, in addition to losing weight and having that as a main goal. So those things are kind of going hand in hand now, I think. And you're also seeing a little bit of an increase too. People are being more and more aware of just the need to do strength training as well and actually stay strong over time. And it's not just it's not just athletes anymore. It's not just the guys that want to have big buff muscles and big arms and stuff. But everyone's really recognizing the value there as well.
But having said that, there is a lot of noise about the fitness space and different people saying different things. So what is it that people need to know, in your opinion?
That's the really tough thing, is that there's so much noise out there because it's such a big industry and there's so much marketing predicated around all these things. And like you said, one thing might have worked for somebody, so then you try and market this as some sort of one size fits all for everybody. And the reality of it is that everyone's fitness is very individual. What works for one person might not work for another person. So you have all this noise, and sort of sorting through that is finding stuff that works. And the key really is to do some research. If you see something that looks like it's too good to be true in terms of a claim, it probably is. The reality with fitness is that you've got to do something and do it consistently to see results. Doing something's better than nothing always. So really it's about starting somewhere, trying stuff, seeing that result. trying to find the actual answers in it, and at the end of the day, find a fitness professional who you can trust and ask some of these questions of.
Now, I mentioned earlier that we are at INcubes, and they've been focusing a lot on entrepreneurs and the fitness that they're doing while they're building their companies, Fitrepreneur, if you will. So I actually have some questions from these entrepreneurs. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. What is the best option for fitness as an entrepreneur?
Again, I'm not sure there's really a best option. The really thing is, and especially as an entrepreneur, the already condensed schedules that everyone kind of finds, it's even that much more, time is that much more precious. So I think the best thing is to find something you condense. Usually the most effective in short times is high intensity interval training or HIIT training, where you're doing a combination of strength work with some cardio work, and because of the intensity you do, you can shorten these workouts into 15, 20, 25 minutes at a time. So I'd say as an entrepreneur, if you're going to at least do one thing, that I would look to look at maybe some high intensity interval training as the best bang for your buck.
Okay. And obviously, when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes funds are a little bit lean. So are there any other alternatives to committing to a long-term gym membership?
Sure. I mean, there's all kinds of options, you can do at home. The key is that you want to, in my experience, sometimes actually, paying for something, you've also got the financial obligation, you've paid for it, so you're much more likely to actually do it than some of the other free things that are out there. So I think there's some free tools that are out there. There's some apps that are good for, holding you socially accountable, for example, if it's accountability that you need. There's other apps out there that do give programs. Obviously, my bias is that, getting to the trainer and getting the trainer out there and getting that information is sort of the key. The question I've had from a few different people, especially in the entrepreneur world, because they've only got a 3-month contract at the job they're in, and yet every gym tries to make them into a 1-year membership. So one thing is that always ask about the options on a month-to-month basis or something like that. If you do want to join a gym, there's always there should be monthly options. You may end up paying a few more dollars per month, but most gyms should have month-to-month options that make sense for people, so they don't have to commit long-term there. And again, just sort of explore. Most gyms or places will let you do a trial, or it's worth paying the $15 or $20 to do a trial at a yoga class or a boot camp or a gym ahead of time, and make sure it works for you before committing to something bigger.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We live in Toronto, not the most bike-friendly city, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody would like to know if biking to work is enough to stay fit. Maybe in Amsterdam, but I'm not sure about Toronto.
Well, you got further to go in Toronto, depending on where you're coming from in some ways. But so it's a good alternative, like adding something like that in. Biking, obviously, you're going to have some cardiovascular activity, a little bit of strength work in it as you go. I always say, doing one thing is never going to be just enough. So biking is great. You're going to get some more cardiovascular activity in there. It'd be great to add a little bit of strength work in there, maybe some flexibility recovery work in there as well, and that would be sort of the ultimate sort of balance in the routine. So bike to work, but then also do 2 days of work where you find some time to do a few even body weight resistance exercises and maybe a day of yoga or something as well.
I know you touched on it earlier, but of course everyone wants to know how truly important is diet in terms of staying in shape and keeping fit?
Extremely important. A lot of fitness professionals will tell you, especially when it comes down to like losing weight or one of those goals, that diet's probably 75 or 80% of the task. And it's the same thing with staying in shape. It all goes hand in hand. At least if you're more active and you're eating well, you're obviously going to be doing everything better. Lots of times people start fitness routines and they don't change their diet correspondingly with it, and that can be very detrimental, because as much as you're putting more calories out on the fitness side of things, you may actually be consuming more on the calories inside of things, so you're not actually seeing the results that you need. There's some really interesting long-term studies around that, the different types of exercise not getting the results you'd expect because of how people ate afterwards if they weren't given proper dietary advice. So the two go hand in hand. If you're going to start being more active, you definitely want to be more conscious of what you're eating as well.
Right, and again, touching on entrepreneurs doing 12, 14, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, do you have any life hacks that can help them get fit? We love life hacks as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the stuff around the actual fitness side of things, they are kind of that individual life hack. Like I know a CTO who he knows that when he wakes up in the morning, at least if he grabs his kettlebell and does 10 minutes, that he's going to, that he's done something for the day, and that's his thing. He knows that he's gotten into, he finds he's more productive for the day. I know that another entrepreneur, it's all about doing, YouTube yoga at night, making sure they can gear down and do that type of stuff. So I mean, there's little things. For me, it's all about finding little ways on a day-to-day basis to try and be a little bit more active. So it's little things like taking the stairs instead of the escalator, walking that extra couple of blocks instead of hopping on the streetcar, finishing a sprint, or finishing, for developers, you just finished a feature in coding, actually stopping, standing up from your desk, walking around, doing a little bit of activity, some stretches, little things like that, that go a long way in terms of just feeling a little bit better on a day-to-day basis. And my big pet peeve, of course, is actually opening doors with your kinetic energy as opposed to pushing the button, which in downtown Toronto, I see a lot of people doing that all the time. So little things you can do to use a little bit more, muscle power here, and do those things that do add up over the course of a day and a week.
Nick, thank you very much for your time. Lots of information there, very informative. And again, Entrepreneur Accelerator, we encourage fitness and health here at INcubes, don't we?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
All right.
Of course, you lose all the overlays. Oh shoot, you get so much more.
How are we doing? Frames all right?
Yes.
That looks good. Yeah.
Alright, go for it.
Okay, Nick, can you tell me the hardest/best part of a trainer's job?
The hardest part of the job is the fact, in my opinion, is the fact that of a trainer's job is the fact that they really are, in this day and age, turned into salespeople as much as, usually people get in the job to be caregivers, more in that caregiving sense. They want to help people, get fit, and the reality of the job is they spend a lot of their time actually selling and managing the sales side of things. So I think that's the biggest challenge as a trainer. I think that's why you have such high turnover in this field.
Why become a personal trainer in the first place?
I mean, if you do want to help people get more healthy, more fit. I find that trainers come at it for a few different reasons. Some people they like the gym, they're active, they're fit, so it's a good job to do because it keeps them in that environment. For some people, they really care about helping other people and getting it that way. And it's usually some combination of those two things. People enjoy fitness and they want to help and they want to share their knowledge in that sense. I don't know if I've ever met a personal trainer who got into it because they thought they were going to make $1 million personal training people.
Why would anyone pay for a personal trainer?
People tend to, the stats show that people get better results with a trainer and faster to their goal. So obviously the two big values of a personal trainer, one I would say is personalization or customization. So everyone's body's different. Everyone's body's reacts differently to the different programs and stimulus that they have within a fitness program. So you need to be able to know when and how to change that over time to get the most out of someone's body. And really a fitness professional knows better how to make those changes. And number two is really accountability. People need to have that other set of accountability. You can simulate that accountability other ways, but really having the appointment with the trainer and someone who's holding you accountable to not just the days that you work with them, but also the days you're supposed to work on your own. People tend to do a lot better when they have a real person holding them accountable to it. So accountability, personalization, that's really the value of a trainer. I always used to tell people they're paying for their own fitness education too. A trainer's gone through school and they've got all that knowledge and experience, so they should be educating you as you go as well.
That's the first step.
Stop it there for a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can just kind of do these last couple of sections and then we'll clip them as we go.
Okay, are we doing it again?
Yep, we're going.
Wait, is there a way I can go back to live, to the
You just have to drag the thing.
But it's all the way over?
Now Chelsea will be teaching us after how to use it.
That's why I was taking a look.
I tried, but
So
it's
gonna take a
over
second
my head.
Okay. It's a good face.
That's the one.
Yep.
I just need to know
Can
how
you
to
tweet
train
that?
one.
And I need to know what
There he
that's
is.
why I need to know.
You need to what?
So I can communicate what it is to ex-CEO.
Oh, you don't want to tell them the details of this? You just want to tell them the result.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
But they'll be like, well, how do you do it?
the pitch we're using fucking magic sauce. That's what
Fine.
you pay us for.
Okay.
And that's what we pay the video comedy guys for.
Magic sauce.
Yeah. She's like, well, how do we communicate this to CEOs we're talking to? And I was like, we don't. We tell them what happens afterwards. We tell them that their stuff gets tweeted out live. That's what happens.
Can you imagine me
Mobile app
trying to
too?
explain this?
This is just on the
Yeah,
website.
totally.
We have on mobile app.
Magic sauce.
Okay, cool.
Am I waiting?
No, we're good.
I think we're just gonna get her
You're gonna-
set back up.
Refresh the page.
Yeah, it's only cocktails. I'll get them for dinner.
I think the internet's also kind of wonky here.
Nick, same Nick.
Um,
He's a PSX online sports trader guy.
Yeah.
PSX.
Okay, we're good.
What's PSX?
Okay. Can I start?
Does it want to use my app?
Our personal trainer. Don't do that with your eyebrows ever again. Our personal trainer is replaceable with technology.
No, absolutely not. I don't think you ever replace the sort of the human touch that you're going to get with that. Technology can be somewhat predictive, but it's never going to actually replace people feeling, the human touch on the other end of it, that accountability to them, and making those sort of informed decisions. It's funny because I think that you're never going to be able to replace the trainer unless you had a whole lot of data points to start to inform on that, and you'd never ever get those data points unless you actually had trainers working with clients with something. So that's what I think is going to go on.
Value of a personal trainer to the fitness industry.
I mean, really, they drive a lot of the success in people. I think that people need access to these fitness professionals for the information they've got. So I think on the one hand, they're very undervalued in terms of their actual role and how they can help more people. But on the other hand, they're overvalued on an hourly basis if you need to hire them, because the price of personal training has become so high on an hourly basis that it's become too much for most of the general population. So right now, only about 2.4% of the general population has a personal trainer, and everyone else hasn't. So mostly because at an average cost of $56 in the States and about $75 in Canada, that money adds up really quickly, and it's because as of right now, trainers really only have the only option for them is to sell their time in 1 hour blocks and not get paid for the time when they're the unbilled time when they're driving their business and building programs and things like that. So that's made that hour have to compensate for the other time, which is why the price has become so high and priced them out of the market for most people to actually use a personal trainer.
Biggest issue facing the fitness industry.
I think it's the accessibility and affordability of personal trainers. Really, if they were more accessible on a general basis, we had more than 2.4% of the general population, or more than about 11 to 12% of the gym going population actually using a trainer. And I think the key to that is really bringing that either the price point on an hourly basis down, or having different ways of delivering the same service, but with what I would call a lower involvement with the trainer.
Your thoughts on the value of, wait, let me say that again. Without saying aggressive roles of gyms in the fitness industry.
Oh, okay. Of course, then I start with that. So what's the question?
Aggressive role of gyms in the fitness industry.
Right. So gyms have become, fairly aggressive on the front end of things. One thing that I saw all the time when I was selling gym memberships or doing assessments, especially the big gyms, have become very aggressive on pushing people into memberships or into personal training through the fitness assessment. And the reality of that is that it's the nature of the business model to some extent. The big gyms, they've built up these big spaces with lots of equipment in them, lots of shiny things for people to come play with. Part of it's because if people don't have a trainer, then they need more things to feel like they're getting value out of the membership. So because of that, these gyms spend a lot of money on the facility and equipping the facility, which means they've got a lot of money sunk into it. And so the way to get some of that money back is to try and get some of that upfront cost, by selling a gym membership. The nature of fitness is that you want people committed to the long term anyways. So selling that long-term membership, getting people to save a few dollars by committing for the year has become the business model of the big gym, and it's meant for a more aggressive sale up front, and it's also meant for a more aggressive sale for personal training. Mostly because, in my opinion, there's a lack of really good engagement tools once the person starts in the gym, and without knowing that there's going to be more engagement down the road or proper follow-up, it means the only chance for gyms to really sell, the only sales point, is right at the start of that membership. So most of the big gyms have recognized that and very aggressively gone after the start of that membership and that aggressive sales point. So I believe that if we have better technology that lets people engage over the long term and there's more natural conversations around it, then you'll have less aggression at the forefront.
Most important thing a trainer can do to start their business, with ideally a shorter answer.
So the most important thing a trainer can do to start their business is just to recognize what they need to do to organize things on the back end of things. What I mean by that is that most trainers aren't necessarily, they're forced to be entrepreneurs, but they're not necessarily business people. So the more that they can find tools that make the business management side of things easy, the more they can focus their time on their clients themselves and on getting results and getting more clients. So I think that's the key.
Tools a veteran trainer can use to grow their business.
So there's a few tools out there that are really useful. Using things like, just being able to use things like Gmail and some of the apps that plug into Gmail, for example, or knowing how to use, using spreadsheets and sharing and saving those spreadsheets into libraries so you can recall them easily. It's little things of knowing how that technology works. And then of course, the biggest things these days for trainers who have some following is knowing how to use social media to sort of build some of that following that way. Knowing how to build a presence in that sense. And then there's realistically very few apps out there for trainers. There's a few that allow management of social media. There's a few apps out there that allow for scheduling and a few things like that easier. But there's really nothing out there that allows them to engage their clients around the program itself really well. So that's what we're hoping to do is sort of fill that gap between the trainer and the client, closing the feedback loop around their training program.
Final question. Keeping clients accountable in between sessions.
Right, so the key is that accountability. I think it's really tough. I've executed paper versions of accountability, giving people a paper program and you want that it's supposed to come back with the paper filled out, as an approximation to things. The reality that I faced is that those papers never come back. The more you can try and give them all those tools in the world, without being with them on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to hold that accountability afterwards. So I think that technology is the key here. It's one of the biggest reasons that we started Trainer Plus, because at least if you're tracking things on a regular basis and making it easy to track on a regular basis, your trainer is going to see that result. So you still have that tacit accountability of your trainer sort of looking over your shoulder every day on the day-to-day basis in between the times you see the trainer, whether that be on a weekly or a monthly basis.
Great.
Perfect. Cool. All right. We just went